call this organizational meeting for the Richland Bean Boston Community School Corporation Board Organizational Meeting to order as the preceding board's presiding officer. For the roll call, please let the record reflect that Mr. Tucker, Mr. Kerr, and Mr. DeMoss are in person. Mr. Durnall is present on Zoom, and Mrs. Jacobs is not present this evening. Visitor comments. Are there any visitors that'd like to make comments? Seeing none, we'll move on. The first thing we need to do is to elect a temporary chairperson to preside over the next line item in the meeting. So is there a nomination for a temporary chairperson?
I nominate Dana Kerr.
I second.
Nominate second. Any other nominations? Hearing none, by roll call, Mr. Durnall?
Aye.
Mr. Tucker?
Aye.
Mr. DeMoss?
Aye.
And Mr. Kerr is an aye as well. So I'll continue. Now for the Board of Trustees officers. First up is the election of a president. Is there a nomination?
I nominate Dana. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I nominate Dana Kerr for president of the school board.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any other nominations? Hearing none. Mr. Durnall?
Aye.
Mr. Tucker?
Aye.
Mr. DeMoss?
Aye.
And Mr. Kerr is an aye as well. All right, now we have election of a vice president. Is there a nomination?
I nominate Jimmy Durnall.
I second that nomination.
Moved and seconded. Any other nominations? Hearing none. Mr. Durnall?
Aye.
Mr. Tucker?
Aye.
Mr. DeMoss?
Aye.
Mr. Kerr is a aye as well. Now we have election of secretary. We have a nomination for that office.
I nominate Mr. Larry DeMoss for secretary.
I'll second.
Any further nominations? Hearing none. Mr. Durnall?
Aye.
Mr. Tucker?
Aye.
Mr. DeMoss?
Aye.
And Mr. Kerr is also an aye. Okay, now we have establishment of board compensation. Dr. Sanders.
Yes, at the annual board organizational meeting, you are asked to approve the compensation amount that the board will receive for the calendar year. The compensation amount for 2022 is as follows. The current per diem amount set by the State Board of Accounts is $112 per regular board meeting, $62 for meetings such as executive sessions and work sessions, and under Indiana Code 20-26-4-7, an annual $2,000 base salary is a maximum allowable amount. So I recommend your approval for the compensation model.
That motion.
I move we adopt the recommendation.
Is there a second?
I second the recommendation.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any questions, discussion?
That's just a continuation of what was last year, right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
Right.
annual.
Reflects no change.
No changes, right?
Any further questions, discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Durnall?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss?
Aye.
And Mr. Kerr is aye as well. Motion passes. Now we have the appointment of our school corporation legal counsel. Dr. Sanders.
Yes, I would like to recommend that the school board approves retaining Ferguson Law for our corporation legal counsel. They do a great service for us, and we have a great relationship, and they're really important to have for our school corporation.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to accept Dr. Sanders' recommendation for Ferguson Law as our legal counsel.
I'll second.
Any questions, discussion?
They've been doing a great job for us for a long time.
Yes, yeah, for a long time.
Thank you.
Spectacular job. So, Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss,
Aye.
and Mr. Kerr's aye as well. Motion passes. Now, appointment of our school corporation treasurer. Dr. Sanders?
Yes, I would like to recommend Debbie Tate to continue as our corporation treasurer. We've made a tremendous amount of improvement with our finances over the last few years, and I think Matt would agree with me that Debbie's an important part of that. So we would recommend Debbie Tate to continue as our corporation treasurer.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we continue with Debbie Tate as the corporation treasurer.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments?
Just know that during the audit, she got some high praise from the auditor about how
Yes.
well things were handled.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up. She did get very high praise for her service.
And she keeps Matt and I in line.
Right, which is not an easy job.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss,
Aye.
and Mr. Kerr is an aye as well. Motion passes. Now we have appointment of the school corporation deputy treasurer. Dr. Sanders?
Yes, and I would like to recommend Robin May to continue serving as our corporation deputy treasurer. There are many days where there's just more work than there are amount of hours in the day, and Robin's always there to help out in any way she can in terms of supporting the treasurer. So I recommend Robin May as our corporation deputy treasurer.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve Robin May as our corporation deputy treasurer.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Robin, we're very thankful for all the hard work that you put in as secretary as well as deputy treasurer. We appreciate that.
I want to mention also, I appreciate you being a sponge and learning, because you learn, it's ongoing learning, and I really appreciate that. And as Mr. DeMoss said with the audit this year, that was very educational.
Wonderful. Okay. Nothing further. Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. Motion passes. Now we have establishment of bond for the school corporation treasurer, deputy treasurer, and the ECA treasurer. And for that, we'll turn it to Mr. Irwin.
Yes, so we're required by law to establish a bond amount for our treasurer, deputy treasurer, and ECA treasurer. We recommend a bond amount to be set at $100,000 for each of those three positions, which is right on par with what we've done. And so I recommend your approval for the bonds for those three positions: corporation treasurer, deputy treasurer, and ECA treasurer.
I move that we establish bond of $100,000 for our treasurer, the deputy treasurer, and the ECA treasurer.
I'll second.
Move seconded. Any questions, comments?
That is per person, correct, Mr. Irwin?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's the state law?
Yeah, it follows right in line with what other school corporations do as well, yes.
Okay,
Anything further?
thank you.
Hearing none, Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss?
Yes.
Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. Motion passes. Now we have appointment of the secretary to the Board of School Trustees. Dr. Sanders?
Yes, I am recommending Robin May continue serving as the secretary to the board. And so as you guys have already noted, Robin does a really good job for us. I think the average person would be surprised how much work goes into getting ready for a board meeting. And so Robin, she's our right hand. And so we appreciate all of her hard work. We recommend Robin May as the secretary to the school board.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept Robin May as our secretary to the school board.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments?
Mr.
Thank
Kerr,
you.
I did have one question.
Yes.
Back to number 10, I apologize. The ECA treasurer is, who is our ECA treasurer for this coming year?
Janine Wagner.
Janine Wagner, okay, so she does not have to be approved again?
She's contracted at the beginning of the school
We
year.
approved the
didn't she?
bond, I saw. She does not have to be, okay. All right, just want to confirm that. Thank you.
So the answer is it's not an appointed position,
Okay.
so. Okay, anything further? Hearing nothing, Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss?
Aye.
And Mr. Kerr is aye as well. Motion passes. Now we have board appointments. Dr. Sanders?
Mr. Kerr, would we be able to combine these in one action item? Okay. I would recommend the following board appointments: for Athletic Council, Jimmy Durnall; for the Ellisville Park Board, Jimmy Durnall; for the Monroe County Redevelopment Commission, Brad Tucker; and the Legislative Liaison to the Indiana School Board Association, Larry DeMoss.
Do we have a motion on the recommendation?
I move accepting Dr. Sanders' recommendations.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? I'm assuming since there's no,
I think I'm the one that's getting off easy on those four.
And to make note, each person has accepted that
Okay.
appointment.
I was going to say, I heard no objections, so I assume that's an acceptance. Okay, Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss?
Yes.
Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. And those four appointments pass. Next, we have the 2022 regular school board meeting calendar informational items. Dr. Sanders?
Yes, so at the December school board meeting, the school board approved the board calendar for 2022. I provided you an additional copy tonight, and these dates are posted on our website.
Are there any questions regarding the schedule for our meetings this year?
And I would like to note, too, that of course, the organizational meeting is being held tonight in the Corporation Administration Office Building. All regular board meetings are held in the Edgewood High School Auditorium.
Until such time as we have an option.
What's that?
Until such time as we have an option.
Until such time as, yeah, right, our facility next door is finished.
And they're there until they're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And those are all third Mondays except for
Except
the
for,
January is a Tuesday, and then the October one is shoved back a week for budget purposes.
Right.
Okay. Sounds good.
Next, we have approval of our corporation bylaws and policies. Dr. Sanders?
Right, this is just a formality every year where the board is basically asked to reconfirm the bylaws and policies for Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation. And so I asked the board to approve those, the bylaws and the policies once again.
I move approval.
Okay, I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? Hearing none. Mr. Durnall?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss?
Yes.
Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. Motion passes. And now we need to appoint the local board of finance. And so we'll turn to Mr. Irwin.
So this is a yearly piece, and so the school board essentially appoints yourselves as the local Board of Finance. We will have our Board of Finance meeting this upcoming Tuesday, January 18th, would be our Board of Finance meeting coming up, but you guys have to appoint yourselves as the local Board of Finance.
So do we have a motion for the appointment of the existing sitting members of the Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation Board to serve as the local Board of Finance?
I so move.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Questions, discussions? Hearing none. Mr. Durnall?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss?
Yes.
Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. Passes additionally. For anyone who needs to complete a conflict of interest form as required, those have to be done annually. I believe a couple have already filled those out, and I will be here in a minute. Those need to be filled out before we leave tonight. Otherwise, if there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.